So in today's class, we are going to discuss this year's essay paper. Now, essays in UPSC are highly philosophical in nature. Understand the mindset of the examiner. He wants to check the kind of person you are via presentation of your thoughts, okay? He wants to check what do you think about the society? What are your ethical moral value system? Okay, this essay is not only about filling in the information, but understand whatever course you study in GS1, GS2 and GS3, you can supplement all those knowledge over here, right? For example, if you are studying world history, we see hypothetically if an essay is about the leadership or democracy, right? We see two kinds of leadership. One is of Nelson Mandela, right? Ethical leadership. Another one over here can be under Nazism, Hitler. So you use that knowledge to substantiate your essay, and please also write down your personal stories and experiences, but in very brief, to bring originality into the topic. Before going to each essay we discuss, very quickly, I would like to discuss structuring for the students who are appearing for 2026, 27 and 28 exam. Okay. So first of all, whatever topic is there, you need to understand over here that what is the quote, or what in the quote the thinker or the philosopher is saying. Very simply, बहुत सीधे शब्दों में, 4 line में, you have to explain the meaning of the essay that you have picked. Many a times people also start with the story, right? That is also a good approach, but you have to justify in the end of the passage of the story that this is the point of the essay, right? You have to keep justifying, and because it's like 10 papers long, so after every 2 papers, you will justify your topic. Understand this. Over here, examiner is looking for your clarity of thoughts. Suppose you are a district collector, right? Understand this essay paper like that. You don't know the syllabus. Anything can come under the sun, right? Situations when you will be a district collector will be similar, but how your clarity of thoughts, how structurally you take decision making, there is no haphazardness, right? That is represented in the essay. And there are positives and there are negatives, right? Both the answers are balanced pretty well. Apart from this, applicability. Understand that essay has to be multidimensional. I have discussed social dimension, political dimension, economical dimension, technological dimension, gender dimension, rural-urban divide dimension, right? Ethical dimension, psychological dimensions. So understand whatever essay you are writing, don't only put the examples from social thinkers. Or if something is coming about social part, so Raja Ram Mohan Roy likh diya, Sati likh diya, then again Ishwar Chand likh diya. People, what they do, they start writing all the historical examples. No, try to bring the contemporary example, what is going on in Indian and international context. जैसे आपने Black Lives Matter भी लिख दिया, Black Lives Matter लिख दिया उसमें, right? And another thing, how the structuring is done. First of all, you introduce it with a quote, okay, or simply a meaning, or simply a very anecdote or the story. Best approach, the best approach is the simplest approach, right? Don't complex it. Try to make things easy for the examiner. Just pick up the key term in the topic and explain it in 4-5 lines, okay? Then you can give your thesis, that how you are interpreting this statement. Understand there are 2 parts, thesis and antithesis, right? And then there is always a conclusion. क्योंकि आपको दोनों साइड के आर्ग्यूमेंट्स देने हैं, right? This is, you're explaining the essay over here, the pointers in favor of it. A little part of antithesis has to be also mentioned. Don't go into critical analysis a lot, but that has to be mentioned. And then conclusion, it has to be very pragmatic, because you are going to be a bureaucrat. No matter what, your solution has to be always forward looking, that the glass is half full rather than seeing that glass is half empty. So the approach has to be very optimistic. Understand? So organize the body part after this into certain sections. I have discussed the dimensions. Many people, they write down in pointers, point number 1, social dimension. Do not do that. Essays, please always write down in passages. Okay, don't make this mistake. 10 पन्ने होते हैं, and in each 2 sides you can discuss the social dimensions with your national international examples, right? More the coverage, more marks you will get. Rather than going on one direction, it should be a generalistic essay. Second, economical dimension, how it is affecting India, how it is affecting globally, right? Third, approach over your environmental dimension, right? Again, Indian context, international context. This is the simplest approach, okay? Then psychological dimensions, ethical dimensions, you can divide historical angle, okay? And then please, in all your essays, do supplement, do make it relevant with the current context scenario which is going. Now, while I was analyzing the question paper, what I saw that all the scenarios in today's world were somehow fitting into the topics. Now, this is your skill. This is your analysis, how you are representing and writing it in the exam, right? After this, you are giving a balanced view, okay? And after this, you give a antithesis and conclusion to your essay. So this is how you are going to write the essay. Certain few more points I'll discuss here. You can use some quotations, but बहुत लोग क्या करते हैं, एक already thinker का essay है and they write multiple quotes in that. In ethics copies also I have seen when there is a thinker question, something, suppose there's a topic that earth has for everyone's need but not for everyone's need, Mahatma Gandhi has said. Now in that they will try to put in some Western philosophical thinker, right? Do not complex your topic a lot. What you can do, you can simply pick up the crux what other thinkers are saying and put it. 2, 3, it's okay, but some copies are entirely filled with this, okay? Indian international example, a certain level of diagrams. Suppose you want to represent something, right? It should be a little mathematical representation over here. Suppose this is social, political, economical dimension. I will just represent the case study over here. Okay, there are different ways to write your essay, but understand, बहुत लोग इसको भी बहुत mathematically कर देंगे. But what is essential in the essay is to have a human touch. Okay, I'll repeat that again. And then now, how are you linking the topic to the contemporary issues? जैसे there is an essay on democracy or there is an essay on liberty. Okay, you can always give the example of Rosa Parks' refusal to give her seat. Okay, she was a black woman in USA, and that time there was racial segregation going on. That was the moment when she fought for her rights, and that further spread into the civil rights movement. Such kind of motivational examples you can add into the abstract essay, or you can discuss about, if the topic is on education, women empowerment, we'll just see how everything fits in. You can write about Malala Yousafzai, right? How she had the moral conviction and courage despite having point blank with the Talibanis. She still went on and fought for the women's right and women's education. Another classic example over here is Nelson Mandela. He was 27 years in jail, right? But when he came out, we'll discuss this essay, section A, second part. When he came out, what did he do? He, instead of fighting back, he formed Truth and Reconciliation Commission, okay? And he brought democracy in South Africa and further spread of education system. So, abhi, in all the African nations, almost, I think South Africa is the one which is very progressive, right? So, these are visionary, forward-looking leaders, right? You are going to be a leader of a mass, a bureaucrat, a civil servant, Naukar Shahi. So you have to be a very visionary person. You have to represent such examples in your paper. Is it clear? And please use a very simple language. You do not need to have vocabulary. आप जब कविता लिखते हैं तो आप अपनी चीजों की व्याख्या करते हैं, right? बहुत फैंसी नहीं लिखना है, बहुत ही सरल शब्दों में you have to express yourself. Okay? Now, lots of people join test series for essay and all. What I will say before doing anything, please see the past year question papers from last almost 4 years. UPSC is asking essays mostly on philosophical dimensions, okay? And the essays on philosophical dimensions are very open-ended, right? it is your thought process, how you connect the whole syllabus, first of all, right? And how you justify it from the essay. Okay, now let's see the first topic, which was here. Truth has no color. सत्य कोई रंग नहीं जानता है. ठीक है? Now understand this. What is truth? Truth is subjective value. It is objective value, right? Subjectively, it has no color, which means you can't demarcate or differentiate a person based on the color, caste, creed, religion. Very simple, right? So, we see over here that the truth is property of no individual. This was said by Ralph Waldo Emerson, but it is the treasure of all men. Satyata to universal virtue hai, right? Plato has also mentioned about truth, the universalness of the truth, right? When we discuss in when I was telling you in ethics class about Kant's categorical imperative, right? At that point, universality of the truth is in itself, right? Truth is good in itself. It has to not be supplemented by some external virtue, right? So, universality आप किसी में divide नहीं कर सकते हैं, right? So, this is the crux of the essay over here, right? It emphasizes that truth does not discriminate based on your external identities. I hope this is the idea that you have to exactly put in the introduction. And after this, right, now it depends how much you connect to the thinkers. Not necessarily, you can keep it very simple. Mahatma Gandhi, everybody knows, right? He said that truth is God and God is truth. Okay? Yes, it was Martin Luther King. It was Martin Luther King Jr., okay, who fought against the racial injustice in US, and he said that arc of moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. ये तो सत्य है, right? ये तो सत्य है कि justice will be equal for all. ऐसा नहीं है कि black men and white men can be differentiated, because justice is a truth. It's a universal value in itself. You have to understand this topic, what it is talking about. It is talking about the universality of truth. Is it clear? Once you have written this in your exam, examiner now understands कि हाँ, इसको topic is clear. Now you supplement it via various national perspectives and international perspectives. Okay, so caste system and truth. We can see here that B.R. Ambedkar, right? He had fought for casteism. He had said truth knows no color and truth knows no caste also, right? He had mentioned about annihilation of caste via intermarriages and interdining, right? So truth does not recognize the caste colorings also. Substantiate whatever you have written in the introduction, substantiate here, right? Even judiciary has been an arbiter of truth. It is said that the truth transcends the political ideologies also. Keshwananda Bharti case GS2 paper में सबने पढ़ा है. Basic structure of the Constitution 1973. You can't alter that, right? So the truth cannot be changed. It is similar for all. Yes, in the farmers' protest, we have seen the truth of agrarian distress in India. It has cut across various religions and political lines. ठीक है? इसके बाद I have just discussed about civil rights movement in USA. Rosa Parks example. She was not willing to give her seat, right? Because humanity is one. That's a universal value. That is in itself intrinsically good. This is the crux of the essay. Again, Nelson Mandela, he had demonstrated that the truth that all the humans are equal and there is no racial color in the apartheid movement. One amazing thing you will see, all these examples will somehow be repeating in all the essay. Okay, in fact, there is no geopolitical coloring in truth. The people of Ukraine, Russia, they are same, right? Current affairs, how you're going to link Black Lives Matters, okay? That it is a universal truth that all lives, they are carrying equal worth. Climate change crisis. Over here also we have seen ecologically, I was telling you, you break down the essay into multiple dimension. Over here, you will see that ecology knows no nationality. Agar मान लो कि God forbid, if there is some climate change in which may happen in years, but something very serious happens, it is never going to see that you are from developed country, you are from developing nation, or you are from least developing nation, or you are Indian, Hindu, Christian, right? Nothing. It is universal for everyone. Okay, over here. In fact, we have seen over here, COVID-19 pandemic, what happened? Was there any differentiation in people? No, every human suffered from it equally. So it's basically, that's what I said. All the essays, they are trying to check in your thought process, right? Now, critique when you give the antithesis of the essay over here. So it was Nietzsche who says that truth often gets distorted by power, right? There is a word which is known as post-truth era. Okay, now this post-truth era means that there is spread of fake information, misinformation, right? Fear-mongering. This also leads to xenophobia amongst the people. So these are fabricated truths, right, which Nietzsche has won. So this we have to be vigilant, because many a times those in power, they try to paint it with ideological wars, right? Current scenario, we are seeing Shia and Sunni nations, right? In West Asia, it has been so disturbed. And I think that is it. And you can supplement it here by Indian Upanishads, which always talk about Satyamev Jayate and emphasizing that truth is eternal and not bound by any identity. This you can write in your introduction also, right? And then you can explain the topic. There is no fixed criteria that how are you going to get very good marks. There is just one thing, that so many dimensions are touched in your essay, right? That examiner is bound to give you marks. And in each dimension, I'm repeating again, you are bringing out that human touch, okay? There are certain challenges to truth. This is the antithesis of the essay. Fake news, I've just discussed. Post-truth politics, right? Cambridge Analytica scandal, we have seen in US. We have also seen a lot of misinformation spreading in India, right? During the communal rights, it was Pegasus case, okay? Then identity politics, geopolitical interest. So it's like global North will always be blaming global South, right? So they will try to present the distorted form of the universal truth over here, okay? Now, if you connect it with the governance, yes, the ninth dimension which I was discussing, there can be a governance dimension over here. When we will study in ethics, administrative ethics, the Maslow's hierarchy, we will see that he talks about the higher values only when your basic needs are met. Then only you become a person who is self-actualized. And that self-actualized person, he merges his duty and the truth together. Is it clear? Okay. So now understand what it is talking about in the end, that truth is impartial, universal, and transcendent. Justice means fairness and equity, right? For A, B, C, for African, for American, for Indian, it will always have a similar value. Is it clear? Okay. Second topic. Yes, I really like this essay, because somehow you can correlate a lot with your life. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Many a times you have seen आप तैयारी कर रहे हैं. This is a little out of context. हर दिन एक लड़ाई तो लड़ ही रहे हैं, right? There will be people who will be demotivating you, but those are the times when you realize inside कि जवाब नहीं देना है, करके दिखाना है, right? Verbally you don't have to fight. So बिना लड़े हुए शत्रु को वश में करना युद्ध की सर्वोच्च कला है. it's a Chinese proverb over here, and they believe that the art of war, okay, it goes beyond the military strategy. How psychologically you are winning the war. Because UPSC is a battle each day. How psychologically you counter your procrastination, right? Your criticism, whatever you're facing outside, then only you can win the war, not by uh, gossiping and doing other things. So the statement says that it's beyond the military strategy, it's a philosophy how by diplomacy and conflict resolution you reach a win-win scenario. Okay. Now, it suggests that the highest form of power is not brute force, जो कि China has actually adopted this. China ko you can say it is like a business country. It is more of a geo-economical country than a geopolitical country. If you see, China का इतना ही interest होता है कि हमारा trade बढ़ता रहे. It is said that more greater the economy, more stronger the economy, more you will rise as a superpower. Right? So China's focus is there. So China is not, have you ever seen China going on a military war with someone? It may do a proxy war, but its philosophy is via diplomacy, resolution. Okay, I will not put ethical governance in China, but yes, this is a concept of the topic. Okay, so subduing without fighting, what does it mean? Just break down. It means defeating the hostility while avoiding destruction and creating a win-win scenario over here. Now, it was Lao Tzu who had said to embrace the non-aggression policy, and he said that power हमेशा दिमाग से खेलना होता है, right? Not by words, not by physically. The people who are silent and who are strongest in the mind, only those win the battles of life. Okay, so it aligns with the idea that truth is subtle and persuasive, right? Another example we see here, Mahatma Gandhi. Did he go on any military war? No. His tools were ahimsa and satyagraha, right? And non-violence is the greatest force. Now, at this point of time, Britishers were like, what do we do? These are unarmed people, right? But it affected, his theory affected the masses in a greater number. Another one in socio-political philosophy, we see thinker Machiavelli. He was he was talking about power, but he had outrightly rejected the warfare. Instead, he believed in the diplomatic alliances, right? Indian Machiavelli किसको बोलते हैं? Indira Gandhi, right? Similarly, Kautilya has also talked about this. Freedom struggle, we have just discussed example. Operation Meghdoot. Did India, during the time of Operation Meghdoot, did it get into any conflict? No. It just went there at, I think, NJ 9814 point is there. Okay, and it just made a strategic occupation in Siachen. Right? Now, this created a kind of fear also in the enemy, and then we are coming on a talking terms. Right? हम लड़ाई नहीं करेंगे. We are not going on a war. Right? We are trying to persuade. Similarly, we have seen in the nuclear deterrence of India. Okay, what happened during the time of Cold War? While the world was divided into two halves, US and USSR, right? USSR collapsed itself. Why? US was just waiting. Although US was a nuclear power, but it was just waiting. It collapsed because of its internal disturbances, right? We study glasnost and Prestokia, right? आप लोग इसको world history में पढ़ोगे. So because of their fallen economy, what happened ultimately? Disintegration of USSR was seen. So US had to literally go on no warfare with it. Now, another example, we have seen Asian diplomacy in Southeast Asia, right? There are multiple disputes in South China Sea, okay? But still we are handling it through dialogue, trade, multilateralism. Okay? Apart from this, Nelson Mandela, I said you, there are 5-10 great visionary leaders. If you understand the topic, you can connect them very well. Nelson Mandela, after being in jail for 27 years, right? When he came out, did he went on a war? No, he created Truth and Reconciliation Commission, right? He wanted the progress of the people over there. That will be a battle which will be won. That will be a win-win situation, right? Progressive democracy and education. Now, you can take this example also. There is a lot of instability, okay, in Israel and Hamas conflict. So we have seen that the inability to subdue without fighting has shown some catastrophic costs also over here, because in today's conflict, there is less of a dialogue, there is less of a wisdom, and people are directly going into war. Russia, Ukraine, similar happened. Israel, Hamas, similar happened. Israel, Iran, similar happened. So all these dimensions can be brought over here. While we see climate negotiations, so instead of conflict over the resolutions, developing countries saying to developed countries, you have used so much of carbon credit, right? You have used so much of the environment. You are ahead of the race and created so much of pollution, right? We are just developing country. So where is the justice? Now this is a time, and now you're saying stop all this, right? So we are trying to talk it through negotiation, through diplomacy. Recently, you can add an example of Baku Peace Climate Summit. जो भी COP जिस साल हो रहा है, if you are writing on the environmental dimension, try to add. Now this represents for the examiner that you are connecting with the current affairs. Abhi Paris Climate Summit is very back. 10 साल पुरानी बात होगी. People still write and answers Paris Climate Summit. Okay. Now, if you see beyond the warfare, where is the application? So those who are using iPhone and those who are using MacBook, if you try to install anything on your cell phone, which is of Google or which is given free in Google, this Play Store, you won't be able to do. Now that's also a psychological war Apple is doing with its competitor. It's not going on a military war, but that's the subtle art. That's the way you are trying to compete with the other brand, right? Okay, so I have said you, we have explained the thesis with a lot of examples. एक छोटा सा part antithesis का होगा, criticism and certain limitations. It should not look कि everything is good on the paper, right? Towards, I think, 7th paper, before giving the way forward and conclusion, okay, just mention this part, that always it's not possible, ठीक है? Some aggressors do not yield to diplomacy. If you remember your world history classes, policy of appeasement was being followed by Britain and France towards Germany, right? There were a lot of internal pacts going on. There were a lot of agreements happening behind the doors. But what happened after that? It failed because the brute force, sometimes it becomes very necessary. Jab tak US did not threw the atom bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, till then Japan was not ready to surrender. Okay, although I don't justify this act, but this is how you can give your criticism points. There is always a risk of manipulation. Psychological wars, the propaganda, disinformation, and all the cyber warfares, they can suppress without fighting, but they raise ethical questions, right? Apart from this, there are certain moral dilemmas. Can subduing without fighting sometimes justify the coercive economic sanctions that harm the civilians, as seen in Iraq and Iran? Okay, so I hope this part is clear. Now, way forward over here is, because your topic is not talking about military, don't go too much into the negative part. Just discuss about the diplomacy first, discuss about the soft power, discuss about, you can say, write here more about the concept of Vasudev Kutumbakam. Why even global South solidarity? There should be global North-South solidarity. Okay. Conclusion over here is simple, that you have to subdue the enemy without fighting. Okay. It is not merely a military strategy, but a universal policy of conflict revolution. This is the crux of the essay. If you are a bureaucrat, you are posted in a district, there will be a situation, hypothetically, some kind of communal violence, right? Every time you cannot say कि section 144 लगा दो. You can't do that. Instead, you will use other ways to subdue the crowd, right? There will be ways which once you go in the training and you'll go in the field, you will explore. So those are more ethical ways. Those are more ways which try to bring in peace and harmony and trust of both the communities in the district collector. Is it clear? Acha, yahan pe Einstein has also given a quote. I don't know that how Third World War will be fought, but Fourth World War will be fought with sticks and stones. I hope this is clear. I really liked this essay. Okay. Now the third one, thought finds a world. Okay, understand this, and creates one also. Now this is an essay which has to be written in 2 dimensions, right? एक विचार एक दुनिया खोजता है, ठीक है? One is finding which is already existing. Okay, वो पहले से pre-exist कर रहा है and आप उसकी सिर्फ खोज कर रहे हो, जैसे न्यूटन ने ग्रेविटी की खोज की, right? Because of his thought process about space and time, he was thinking how the apple is falling from the tree. But एक thought वो भी होता है जो दुनिया बनाता है. For example, currently you see so much of technology we are using, ChatGPT, right? So let's quickly see this. So human thoughts have been working from the time of invention of fire till the wheel. We have seen that in your ancient history classes, from your Paleolithic age to your Neolithic age, right? And it is the thoughts which shape that how the world further is out to be, right? I was discussing this essay has 2 dimensions. First, it uncovers and interprets the reality of the world, whatever has been existing. जैसे अभी बताया था, Newton was telling about gravity. Galileo and Copernicus, they talked that, array, sun is at the center and all the planets are revolving around the sun. They were talking about heliocentrism. Okay, so this had already been existing. They are just finding it out, the reality which is already present. Now, there is a thought which creates a new reality. For example, democracy. Was democracy existing? बहुत पहले democracy थी? नहीं. This has been a creative construct, right? So those who have written this essay in both the dimensions will get the marks. A little confusing it was, right, to attempt this question. So if I discuss it philosophically, Plato in his Allegory of Cave, he gives his concept of idealism, where he's talking about that the thoughts are structuring the reality, and he gives premises and importance to thoughts. Okay. Although you can skip too much of philosophical part, even Immanuel Kant, he says that it is the mind which is the active recipient in this world. Okay, this one is important here. Hegel's dialectics. He talks about creativity. Hegel says that history is unfolding of the human thoughts. Okay, human ideas, they transform the material world, and there are revolutions, reform and progress. This we have seen. Karl Marx, he had just reversed the Hegel's dialectics, and he had started over here on its materialism a new revolution which is known as communalism. Is it clear? Okay, I hope this is clear. Now, thought finds a world, a discovery dimension. How? I have just discussed about heliocentrism. Sociologically, yes, we just forgot. Sociologically, it was B.R. Ambedkar who had thought on caste, right? And he had uncovered the realities of social oppressions that were existing in India. Economics mein, it was Adam Smith who in his Wealth of Nation discovered the principles of trade and market. Okay? Now, thoughts which create the world. I have discussed the political thought, idea of democracy and Indian constitution synthesizing liberty, equality and fraternity. Also, we have seen, I was discussing about the digital world over here, right? Google, AI, social media, ChatGPT. Who would have thought that we would have been working on the computers like that, right? And recently I was seeing a movie in Amazon Prime. There was a man and he made a virtual girlfriend and he started living in that world, right? So this is how creativity is going. Now the creativity is also going towards various elements of quantum mechanics. We are trying to find out how that whole system works, right? Apart from this, yes, I have told you in your essay there has to be ethical human touch. So Buddha's teaching, they created a world of compassion and non-violence. I think same thing, Indian independence movement, we have seen how they created the world of freedom. Next thing, so second over here is green revolution. We have seen with MS Swaminathan how by using green HYV seeds, high yield variety seeds, India became food became a self-sufficiency in India. Okay, and yes, creativity, digital India and UPI. I think I'm repeating it too much because एक ही कॉन्सेप्ट है जो सारे एसेस में फिट होगा, राइट? मोस्टली अमेरिकन रिवॉल्यूशन, it was John Locke who thought on the natural right कि all the men are equal. What happened during the time of American Revolution? Britain से जितने भी slaves थे, right? Mostly slaves and planters and workers, they were sent to North America and South America, mostly, right? So, but when they came there, we will see this in world history class. Then there was this question about why are you taxing us when you're not representing us in your parliament? No taxation without representation. Where are our natural rights, right? So from there came this concept of individualism. Okay, apart from this, Nelson Mandela, I have discussed it so many, I think the fourth time I'm discussing his thought of Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Okay, now some philosophical angles to this essay can be given over here. Karl Marx, he has emphasized that creative power of thought is there which shapes the material world. Okay, it was Nietzsche who said that thoughts create these values of truth and morality. Challenges, again, see how it is written. I have said you multiple times, there has to be an antithesis in your essay, but it has to be very short of, out of 1200 words, 100 words you can keep for this. Okay, where we are discussing that there is a post-truth era, same thing, there are some technological risks and there are extremist ideologies. We have seen in Hitler's Nazi and we have also seen fundamentalists who are changing the ideology of people, and some are also getting affected by these extremist ideologies and they themselves become lone wolf attackers, right? So way forward over here is that you ensure that the thought creates the world aligned with justice. Everywhere you see a lot of ethics is there in the paper. It's not even more philosophical, it's more ethical paper, ethical essay, right? It has to be with justice, it has to be with compassion and not domination. Interdisciplinary thinking. Okay. So finally, we can say that it is a testament of human potential. Thought is both a mirror that reflects the reality and a lamp that eliminates new possibilities. Okay? All this is again coming to ethical use of thought. Creativity to kar di. Thought se Oppenheimer ne, what did he do? He developed nuclear bombs. But was that ethical enough? No. Thoughts which are creative enough, right, will lead to exploration of human potential to reach their actual goal or the self-worth as a human. Is it clear? Now, ऐसे शब्द को भर भर के essay में लिखना है so that now how will these words come in your essay? It will not come in one day. It's like these essays are reflecting the kind of person you are. Suppose you are preparing and there's one more friend of you, he's also preparing, but he believes in casteism. He comes from that part of India where, casteism is a lot of importance is given. So kahin na kahin, it will be really hard for him to break that prejudice or the stereotype, right? Because itna pressure hota hai when you're writing in the exam hall. First essay to still you write, by the time you are towards the mid of the second essay, your mind is not working. We also have gone through such situations, right? So what you are, that will only be reflected in the paper. So it is said that instead of bleeding in the battle, please bleed in the practice. जितना पहले से दिमाग को जोर दिया है, जितना पहले से practice की है, that analysis will come in your paper. Okay, now best lessons are learned through bitter experiences. I think this is also a safe attempt. Okay, second and third a very safe attempt. सबसे अच्छे सबक कड़वे अनुभवों से सीखे जाते हैं. Mahatma Gandhi ki journey, right? He was thrown out of the train in South Africa, and from there, from those bitter experiences, he came and he fought for the independence of people in India. So there was a Greek philosopher, Heraclitus, who has mentioned that suffering is the best teacher. It means that wisdom does not come from comfort. Instead, it comes from hardship, mistakes, and adversity. Okay. I will tell you one story here. Abhi to those who are living in old Rajendra Nagar, right? Every month your parents transfer you some money. They give you money. So you do not understand the value, how hard it is for them to transfer such a huge amount to you, right? But if there are certain aspirants who are not getting money from home, but they have that willpower to crack the exam, they are working, right? They are working and they are also writing the exams, and those are actually the people who are clearing the exam also, because it was in that adversity they learned the value. एक एक पैसे की value समझ में आती है. When you start earning, right, then you think that you're earning, you have to invest, you have to sit in your chair for 10 hours. ठीक है, it's not a joke that you are letting the money go away like that. So sometimes that adversity done by the family is a kind of blessing in disguise, right? So what you learn from that suffering, it's a very petty example, very small example I've given for those aspirants who are living and who can connect. But समझ कहते हैं ना, अकल और समझ, there's this quotation, I'm just confusing. समझ एज से नहीं आती, परिस्थितियों से आती है, right? So the wisdom, it does not comes from comfort or success, right? You learn the true wisdom, or the true character of the person is known by the hardships and the adversity. Because when you are in adversity, वारन में रेंट के लिए पैसा नहीं है, illusion निकल गया. Now it's reflecting कि मुझे तैयारी कैसे करनी है, how you're going to do, and it transforms the individual. और इसी में बहुत लोग साथ साथ they pick up some kind of job and they clear the exams with topper ranks, right? So coming back to the topic, best lessons are learned through the bitter experiences over here. Over here, Stoics, they always have this philosophy of pain and loss, which reveals the true strength of the person. You can mention this also, you can start with the storyline also. So it was Nietzsche's concept of suffering. He tells that which does not kill you makes you stronger. Okay, pain and struggle are not hindrances, but the pathways to greatness. Gandhi, we have discussed, even Buddha has talked about life is a suffering, right? In order to gain, this is little philosophical angle, how you gain enlightenment as a human soul. But try to supplement your essay with realistic examples, okay? Over here, Abraham Lincoln, we have seen that he failed in his business, right? And a lot of hardships were there in his life. Yet, he rose from the ashes like a phoenix, and he became the first black president of America, and he was the one who abolished the slavery. जब आप उस adversity में, जब आप उस कष्ट में होंगे, तभी तो आप समझ पाएंगे कि माने क्या है कष्ट का. When you are in all luxury, how will you understand what it takes to hard work? There's a zeal when you do things. Where is that going to come, right? Some people have it internally, they are internally motivated. तो कभी-कभी किसी के साथ घर वाले ऐसे भी कर देते हैं. Okay. Abdul Kalam. We have seen that initially उन्होंने बहुत कोशिश की थी to get into Air Force, but he did not get selected. But with this perseverance and all, we see that today he is known as the Missile Man of India, right? Helen Keller, despite losing sight and hearing, we all see that it was a determination where she had inspired millions, okay? Another example we can take here from World War, okay? World War I and World War II were bitter experiences of mass destruction. So for them rose United Nations, EU, international human rights. Abhi lots of you can add now. So there are economic organizations which are going on. I hope the concept is clear. Okay. Same thing, apartheid in South Africa. From this, Nelson Mandela learned why bitter experiences, or what bitter experiences teach us. They strip the illusions, they build the resilience, they promote reflection, and they prevent the repetition of the past mistakes which had been happening. Now, sometimes I said you in the essay there has to be a antithesis, right? Why we have to go through bitter experiences? Now, this is the question. Can't we learn from the experiences of others? Can't we learn from some positive examples, right? Definitely, we can. But this is how humanity often reforms, by crisis only. Slavery hati thi, right? USA after the crisis. Democracy came after the crisis. Freedom India got after the crisis. So it is in the time of adversity a character of a man is checked. So I think that is it. We'll conclude this essay here. The bitterness is not the end, but the beginning of wisdom. In the starting of the essay, when I was discussing, I have told you that your essay has to have a very pragmatic ending, right? Forward looking. You have to always see that the glass is half full with water rather than half empty. So this adversity, this bitter experience is also teaching me some kind of lifelong wisdom, right? So this is a positive, this is on a positive note. You are ending. Pick 4 or 5 example and supplement your essay. Nelson Mandela, again, his patience cleared the muddy waters of apartheid through forgiveness and dialogue. Japan, what happened post World War II? It accepted the reconstruction, right? There's now it talks, there's a book called Ikigai, which talks about the purposeful living, and this was adopted in culture of Japan. Okay,